It's 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Kinney County Groundwater Conservation District. We do have a quorum present with 6 directors. Director Ward is not with us tonight. If everyone please rise and join me in pledging allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the country of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Okay, do we have anybody sign up for public comment? Nope. Does anyone wish to sign up for public comment?
I thought.
If you did and we missed it, that's okay. We'll
Sign up.
There's a list over there, and I thought that was it.
There's a sign-in list as well. You might have been that too.
That's what, I did the sign-in list.
Okay, did you want to, I wanted to, yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. We'll get it straightened out. You get up and speak, fill that out in a minute.
Okay.
Tell me what item you want to speak on.
What's that?
You wanted to speak on an item?
It's on the committee, basically has to do with the science.
Okay.
So there was a comment made on Facebook about there not being any much, the board's not focusing on the northwest or the southwest corners of the county. And I just would like Jim to say how much he's doing in those parts that the board is contributing to seeing what kind of the pumping, how it affects the springs. And I would like the people in the town to know how much science is being done out on those parts of the county. And also there's been comments made about pumping that affects the springs that happen southwest of town. And are those wells still being pumped? Are those wells that are attributed to affecting the spring back in 64? Are those still affecting the spring? You know, what has changed since then? And then the third thing is it's about the Howard Solstice line and want to direct some of our science back that way. I know a lot of people, and I have a ranch that joins that, and I just would like the board to know I have a cave that the top's fallen in out there, and it's a really big hole. Shingle went out in it during the dye trace test and saw saw that structure. I also have a tank dam out there that catches water when it rains, and after a 9-inch rain, that tank dam was completely full. And the spring's flowing, and then it goes down, got a 4-inch rain, and once again, the creek's flowing. So something's happening out there east of town that I think has direct impact on the spring. And right now, that tank is really, really low. And I would like for the district to come in and look at that ranch. We've got 6 wells on it, and consider monitoring out there, because I'm afraid that if they dig a footing and it hits one of those structures and they fill it up with concrete, then we could start impacting the spring by filling up those pathways to the spring. So I was really hoping to get more science out that direction, since the spring does come from the Edwards, should be in GMA 10. I would like the district to focus on the wells, particularly that are affecting the spring. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Horwig. Anyone else would like to make public comment? Okay, moving on. Item number 5, discussion possible action approval, the minutes from May 26th regular board meeting, committee meeting June 9th, and public hearing on June 16th. I would entertain a motion to approve all 3.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Well, we got to get to discussion first. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign, 1 abstention. Item 6, General Manager Report. Ms. Hobbs.
Okay, I don't have a whole lot to report, just since the last board meeting. There was actually, since the last two board meetings, there's only been one exempt well application has come in for processing. During the time that I was out west, had been attending in my place at the GMA 7 and GMA 10 meetings. He also attended the TAG Summit in San Marcos back in, I guess that was in,
And I would like to give her a little report on that when Ms. Hobbs is done.
okay. If ready. Let's see. And that was really all that I had. I would like to take this time to thank everybody for the prayers and good wishes and cards and texts and so forth during the time that I was kind of puny. I'm feeling better now. So thank all of you. I appreciate it.
It's good to have you back, Janelle.
Thank you.
I attended the spring tag business meeting in San Marcos a few weeks back. I have to apologize, Mr. Ellis. You've told us many times that you teach the financial seminar. Yes, and I let it slip by me, or I would have attended it, even though I wasn't the financial officer, because I'm sure it was very informative. And next chance I get, whether I'm a financial officer or not, I'm going to that seminar.
Okay.
Because I'm sure it's going to be informative, and I'm sure anybody on this board would benefit from it. I would also like to encourage the board to go to the business meeting, whether it's the fall or the spring. You're going to get more out of that than you get out of the summit, because you have other groundwater districts from across the state put on presentations about some of their specific issues that they have to deal with. Post Oak Savannah put on a wonderful presentation about the process that they go through every 5 years in reviewing every single permit that they have in that district to determine how it's affecting everyone else around them, because they have constant pressure and they have more demand than they have supply there. So they're having to constantly do the haircut thing every 5 years. And they have a really good way of doing it. It's very scientific. They went through that, all the different bullet points that they look at whenever they're determining how to do those reductions. There was another really great one from College Station, where they didn't have the ability to go in and regulate a lot of the municipal use that was occurring there. And they came up with a program in order to help people cut back on their water use. And it has to do with telling them how to water their yard and when to water it, whether they need to or whether they don't. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool deal. But you get to see a whole bunch of that stuff, and you don't get exposed to any of that during the summit. So I would encourage everybody on the board to go to that if you can. If you have the time, go. You're going to get something out of it. I guarantee it. Okie dokie. Any upcoming events that we need to know of? We got GMA 10 scheduling coming up on that public hearing, but we're working on that notice. Do you have anything that you know of, Janelle? I don't.
Do you know anything?
Any upcoming event? Okay, we'll move on to 7. Review Texas Water Development Board Drought Index and aquifer monitoring data. Anybody got any questions for Mr. Burton on this one? This is the most recent one we could get, by the way.
How's the Dooley Well doing?
I've got some slides I can show you where all that's at.
I tell you what, that rain across the state sure did make that map look different for this shot, didn't it? At least for this day. There's a lot of white on there that wasn't there before.
Yeah, we need some of that rain that hit south. Sure.
Indeed. Okay. No comment? No questions?
I got a comment, I guess, can't help it.
Please.
Okay. I've got some slides I can share too, so.
And I don't know what, maybe there's another one a week later, but because of those rains, I suppose the intensity of the drought in Kinney County now in the recharge north is none. White,
Okay.
yeah. But the spring flow is 1.5.
Okay.
So anyway, just
Well,
just noted, so I guess my point is, as we move forward, we need to do better than this as our
Well, I think you made a point, actually.
it's
The problem with these that I see is the fact that they're only a snapshot of that moment in time.
yeah.
And if you don't look over time, go back, you don't really see any kind of trend in these. If you only look at one, it really doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah. So that's my, just This is
And that's a
nice.
problem. I agree.
it's nice, and that isn't the only thing in this package. This package is great, but looking at that Water Weekly, yeah, you need.
That's a
I actually
surface,
haven't
isn't it?
seen that map that you're looking at right there, but I wouldn't, yeah, no, but I mean, I know what you're talking about. I didn't print that. map.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, it's not, it's not even yellow anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And then tomorrow it'll be all red again, because it's only a snapshot. And I don't like them either. They're very difficult to gather information from.
Isn't that just the surface? The aquifer itself
that's a very
needs
high,
to,
that's a
because
very,
I have called and talked to them at Edward Aquifer whenever we was in drought, and they said we was in a number 5 drought. I haven't had a chance to call them because I haven't been there to call them. But that's a surface drought monitor. It's not the aquifers itself. That's why the spring is not flowing whenever we're getting all this rain, because it's not recharging the aquifer enough to make the springs flow.
yeah, I would agree. Derek,
Some
I
of it
would
does,
agree
some of
with-
it doesn't.
I
Yeah.
would agree with you that that's not the map you need to look at in order to determine spring flow.
It'd be really easy for us to come up with one of the other ones that's out there. It's just that we've always put this, but we just don't know why. That's the way it's always been. It can easily be
That's a good
changed.
regional look at where we are at a very high level, not specific to a single spring.
Can you contact Edwards Aquifer and ask them to give us a monthly report on the aquifer itself? Wouldn't that help us?
On their aquifer or our aquifers?
Well, the Edwards Aquifer, and it's,
I think all that information is available online. I mean, Edwards Aquifer Authority, their website has all of that.
well, they just give you that.
Is that?
They just give you that. They don't actually tell you what the aquifer is unless you ask specifically, because I called them and talked to them, and finally I got it out of them.
Okay.
They said, oh, it's online. Well, you pull it up online, you get this map, what they send out. But then I asked the guy specifically what the aquifer itself was in. And he said it was a number 5 drought. But number 5 is the most severe it goes. It could have been at a 10, but the 5 is most severe it goes. Now the recharge, if we're getting recharge, it may not fill it up to get to 5 if you check the aquifer itself. Because this map is all they give you online when you pull it up. So, but I called them specifically and talked to Edward Aquifer. Now, I'm not saying Alton Chalk or any of these other ones. I don't know how to contact them. If they're getting recharge from the rain in their areas, to make that recharge and make them come up. But when you pull it up online, is all you get is that map. And it's not what the aquifer itself is in. Because I asked him specifically. So, I mean, if we could get Edwards Aquifer to give us a monthly report, what the aquifer itself is in, not the surface. The surface looks great around here because we've got rain and the grass is growing and it covers the ground and stops the evaporation and all that. But it's not accurate on what the aquifer itself is in. If the aquifer was flush and white, then we'd actually have spring flow. I mean, so that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. No, I would agree. kind of put on the spot here a little bit.
I'm
So
not-
Edwards Aquifer Authority, though, doesn't manage the Edwards Aquifer that's in GMA 10 that's in Kinney County. They stop at the Uvalde line for whatever reason. I mean, obviously Groundwater doesn't understand that county boundary, but the Edwards Aquifer does. So what they report on is the health of their aquifers east of us. In fact, I think they consider, GMA 10 in our area, they're not looking at it, for whatever reason. And so Director Minley, I understand what you're saying. If you want to talk to me after the meeting, if there's something very specific, some specific actions that you want done, or there's something I can do, absolutely. Let's go down that path and let's see what we need to do. But I don't know that what's happening in Uvalde or Medina or Bexar County that's with Edwards Aquifer Authority. I think you're right. They're way, way down. I can go west over here and we've got artesian flow still in something and we're trying to figure this out. I think Director Palmer's correct. Spring flow is, you said 1.5, is it one? I thought it was 1.4, maybe 1.52 or whatever the number is. It is very, very low. And I've got some graphs and some rainfall that we got in the April, we got a little bit of rain. I was real excited. Kickapoo Cavern State Park main supply well, we were up there on Friday. And I was excited because we started for the first time since 2020, that well started going up and it got 6 feet. It rose 6 feet. And then on May 1st, it started to go down. And even though we continued to get rain, it has not changed. And the spring went up in April 16th or a day later, we got some deep aquifer recharge. Tularosa went up, Kickapoo went up, McKnight went up, Hurwitz stuff went up. One of Davis's wells, everything went up, deep aquifer recharge, but it wasn't enough. And the additional rainfall that we got hasn't changed anything. Now, we get 2 inches on the fort and, the spring goes up. And I think we were looking at that, went to 50, 60 CFS instantaneously, but then it went down instantaneously. That's all runoff, And
The
so
level's up now though, right, Jim? I mean, that water in the spring heads up like probably almost a foot.
yeah, it's, I think 8 inches, where's Carlos said, 6, 8 inches. Yeah, it came up. And so at some point, we're getting a little bit of rise. I don't know, Director Robinson, do you want me to get into some slides here?
Yeah, well, if everybody's kind of ready, let's go ahead and get into 8 so we can, because that's where we're headed anyway.
Okay,
Right?
some of my, okay, you want to move into, okay, that's fine.
Oh, well, no, I'm not trying to rush you. If you got slides before 8, do it.
Look, this board has directed me to do a lot of work, collect a lot of science and collect it across the county. And we're doing a lot, and there's a lot of information. I spent several days trying to process all this and get some slides up there and talk about rainfall and water level, where water levels are low, where they're not low, and trying to understand that. Director Mainley, you and I were talking before the meeting about geologic profiles in each of the wells, some well control, understanding the lithologic units on each of the wells, what the water bearing formations are, and trying to understand how water is moving through the county. And I
You have some slides, Jim? You're saying you have some slides in?
Yeah.
You just keep me in order.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Vince, can you hear me over there? Wave. Okay. Direct some questions to this guy. He's online too. Let's go through. This is one of our monitoring maps. I did just recently update this over the weekend. One of our GIS guys. This is all orthorectified, georectified, GIS layers. See, there's a lot of wells in there. I've got a better map. Let's just move forward here. What we've got. So this is our spring, and I don't know if it's this. Oh, except it's hang on a minute. Except it's not going to work with the screen. The green gets absorbed. Sorry. So the blue line is where we are for this year. The grayish or brownish line, where we're from last year. The 1.58, Director Palmer, is where we were when I printed this a little earlier today. So you can see the spring, we're doing it better than we did last year. Last year we were at 0 at this point, I guess. Right now we're at 1.58. Go to the next slide. So this is where we are since April. That's the rains that we got sort of mid-April. You see the jump in the spring flow came up to about 20 cubic feet per second. That's the axis on the left-hand side. And then we've been in a steady decline since then. The big drop right after June 10th, I know some of that's from the fort. Just you see the little dips and stuff when they divert the water out of it. Why it continued to go down, we're trying to look at that. June 15th, we got some more rain. It came back up, continued to drop, and then now it's come back up a little bit. But again, very low spring flow. This isn't, this is not what we want. I mean, we've got a desired future condition where we're looking at larger values than this. We want more. And I'll talk a little bit about this, about showing rain. Go to the next slide. I think this is, so this is just over the last, this is the, I think, Director Palmer, this was the slide that you were asking for. We started out, down at essentially no flow according to the USGS gauge, and then we've seen it come up a little bit over the last few days. And again, so we've got some rainfall, and we're seeing a little bit of influence. Now, go to the next slide. Let's see what we got. Okay, so this, I know this is going to be hard to look at. I realize the writing's real small on the page. This will all get uploaded. People can download this. You can look at this specifically. But what you're looking at, Marty circled the dates over here on the right. So I've got the start date. This is from April to May. And all of those little colorful squares and the vertical colorful lines that are going up, those are each of our rain gauge stations. And you can't see it, but on the far right-hand side, the axis, that's precipitation in inches. And so I think it goes up to 2.5. And then the discharge is on the left-hand axis. So that green line that's going across, you can see that we were near zero until we got rains in mid-April. And you see that big clump of stuff right in the middle there, right before it starts to go up. All this was the rainfall that we got where we did get some deep aquifer recharge, where I looked at Tularosa well and it started to come up. We looked at McKnight and some of these other wells where Kickapoo Cavern State Park, the main supply well, which had not moved since 2020, was flat. And we've been working with them monthly on trying to figure out where they are. They've got, that they supply water with their park. Well, with this rain event for the first time since 2020, that well started to go up. This is not influenced by pumping. There's no irrigation up there. This is way up north, Edwards County. In fact, you need to drive into Edwards County and then come back into Kinney. But that rainfall event right there brought some water into the aquifer. And if you look at the spring, a day later, 24 hours, 30 hours later, once you get that deep aquifer recharge, the spring started going up. These additional clumps of rainfall that we get, that's the 18 to 20 or 18, I think 18 to 20th, and then the April 29th to May 1st on the right-hand side, those didn't really have the same impact on the spring. And so in the board package, I'm not talking about it here, but for the board members, and it will go online, we did a separate analysis for each of these events showing, so there's 10 graphs, or I don't know, somebody help me here, 10 or 12 graphs. I'm looking for help. This is where the rest of my team provides help here. Don't leave me hanging. But we put maps together that show. So for that rain event on April 16th, April 15th, 16th, there's a map that shows for this rain event for each of the 23 rain gauge stations. Now we've got 59 rain gauge stations out there, but it's all, whatever. It gets cluttered if you put it all on there. But there's 23 on each of the maps that shows where the rain fell. And so part of the analysis that we're looking at right now is not just, well, let me strike all that for a second. So you're going to get maps, and there'll be each map will have a certain value on there. Go to the next one here, and let's look at, so this is the May 1st to May 31st, and the same thing. We got a lot of rain, and Director Minley, the grass is green. We're getting a lot of rain, but it's not enough rain where it's getting deep down into the aquifer that's causing a sustained head pressure that's causing flow. And so this is the rainfall. I'll get into the pumping side of it for a minute. Look, this is a balanced approach. We're looking at pumping impacts on spring also, and we're trying to figure all this out. But so in the middle, what date is that? That's like May 18th or something. Marty, go right in there. So that green line for the spring discharge goes up to about 50 or 60 CFS. Keep going to the right. Marty, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, right about there. One of those green bars right there that goes all the way up. What's unfortunate in this graph is that the Los Moras Springs precipitation station that's at the USGS gauge on this map is also green. It's automatic. And so you see the green line for the spring and it all. But anyway, you see the spring flow on the gauge went up to 50 CFS. Well, that's not head pressure causing spring flow. That's rain that fell on the fort. It's all running into the creek, and you're seeing this artificial increase. And so I look at that and go, I don't think the spring is flowing 50 CFS. What I'm thinking is we're getting a lot of rainfall in here. It's artificially creating it going up. Okay. And then show the next slide. I think did I blow that? Okay. So yeah. So yeah, I should have gone forward. I didn't remember this. So this is your USGS. See that right there? That's because if you look at that one bar right there that goes up, we got 2.02 inches of rain on the fort. Spring goes up. Okay. Go to the next slide. See where we're at here. Okay. I know some people don't like me talking about Tularosa Road, but Tularosa Road is way up north in our bowling alley where we think the majority of the recharge from the spring is coming, what causes spring. And so the green line is the flow in the creek. The blue line is the water level in Tularosa well. And if you notice, Tularosa well, it's going down. The spring flow is real low. But we get rain up in that area, and a couple days before Tularosa well starts going up, about 24 hours later, we see the spring go up. You see the green line goes up. Now, ignore that big bump right there that on the spring flow. See that I got rain, 2.02 inches of rain, Fort Clark, and that other bump to the left, 1.65 inches of rain. Those bumps going up, that's rain that we got here at the fort. Okay, it goes up and then immediately goes down. We don't count that. And then the other dips that you see where it's going down, that's just where the operation of the pool, the way the fort moves water out and then moves it back. So it's temporarily, it goes low and then they move it back and it comes back up. But you see, as Tularosa well has gone down, the head pressure for the spring is going, as Tularosa well goes down, so does the spring. But all the little noise in there somehow, all that little noise, there is some pumping. Somehow there's influence in pumping. And we're looking at every well. Director Minley, I know we were talking earlier, but we're looking at wells. We're looking at correlation. To go back, one of the speakers talked about, are we looking at wells to the northwest or to the southwest? And I even heard in one of the committee meetings last week, somebody stood up and read a comment about 1964. The engineer said that these wells were correlating, drying up the spring. Well, those wells were 1,200, 1,400 feet deep. They're still out there on the property. They are not being pumped today. Those are old wells. They're not being pumped. And so, and then we're not doing anything. Another person commented that Victor 6 V7, Victor 7, was one of the Pratt wells that pumped and dried up the springs. And that must be the same wells that are being pumped today. This board directed us a long time ago. Vince is on the call here. We looked into that. Those wells in the 1960s aren't the same wells that are being pumped today. What you see being pumped are 250-foot wells in the Austin Chalk, different water, different conductivity or specific conductance. I got a whole discussion to talk about that. But they're different. It's different. Now, that doesn't discount it completely. That doesn't mean just because they're different wells that they're not, there's not some influence. We're looking at that. We're trying to figure it out.
You're looking at everything, aren't we?
I'm looking at absolutely everything. We're getting well controlled and lithologic log and all the wells and trying to figure out how all this is going. But this is active going on, and we have more data today than we ever have. But there are still pieces of information that's missing. And so what do? You don't put blinders on and chase every rabbit trail that goes down or go into every rabbit hole that goes down. You stay focused. You look at what you're doing and you develop a methodical plan to try to get the information. We all want the spring to flow. There's not a member of this board or anybody on my scientific team or on Vince's that doesn't want water in the spring. We've got to figure this out. Even I like Dr. Mesa's comments, talked about shallow recharge and deep recharge and all this stuff, and it's complicated. Yeah, well, we've been here for a while. I can tell you it's complicated. So go to the next slide here, okay, so go back for a second. Go back, sorry. Okay, so this is Tularosa Well and Lost Moras Creek from April 26 to June, whatever I printed this. Well, I printed it a couple days ago, but wherever, June 21st, I guess. Okay, go to the next slide. So this is the Tularosa Well and Lost Moras Creek from January 16th to May 26th. I think it looks like it didn't update for my latest one. Okay, but the point is we have a massive record that shows Tularosa Well in GMA 10 is directly correlated. That R squared at 0.86 is, for if anybody in statistics, that's phenomenal. This is one of the strongest correlated wells that we have outside of maybe mud or one of the city wells. And so this has to play into the discussion. And so somebody stood up at one of the meetings, Mr. Boehm or somebody, and said, hey, GMA 10, and whether or not the DFC or the spring needs to be in GMA 10, GMA 7, that's above my pay grade, Director or Mr. Ellis. That's, I don't know how to do anything about that. But what I can tell you from a scientific perspective, there are correlations. This is from June or January 2016 up to today. There's, I don't know how many data points we have here, but there's very, very, very strong correlation that the spring and that well are, when it goes up, spring goes up. When it goes down, it goes down. That doesn't mean, don't hear what I'm not saying. Okay, it doesn't mean there's not some other influences on that as well. We're looking into that, but you can't discount the macro system. The system's driven by rainfall, period. And you can't discount that macro level of analysis. And so we understand that, but now we're down here in the weeds. I hate to put Director Palmer on the spot, but at some point, you and I were talking on the phone, Jim, the spring dropped half a CFS. What's going on? And so that's the level that we're talking about. And so that happened to be a different issue. We understood what that was, and that was a normal course of whatever. The mud was pumping, and so it changed, but mud pumping is only half a CFS. How much are these other people pumping, and what's the influence? And so we're trying to understand that, but nothing is discounted. I mean, I heard somebody, I think, I don't want to speak for Vince, but, they were talking about maybe doing some additional studies for somebody. And hey, look, we need to really understand this stuff down south. Well, that's not part of our scope. Well, it's part of our scope. I'm not discounting any well. I'm going down south. We're going to the east. I'm going to the west. We're going up north. We're trying to get as much information as we can and try to understand things like this, but you can't discount the macro level of stuff. Next. Okay. Now, Director Robinson, this is going to get you into.
Hey.
Well, hang on just a second. No, not yet. Hang on. Hang on. Let me explain something.
That's okay.
And this one, I owe the board an apology, maybe Director Schott in particular. But at some point, I was on the Zoom call, and the board kept talking about TDS or something. And at some point, I interrupted, and I just said, wait, stop talking about TDS, because what we're collecting is specific conductivity, actually actual conductivity. And so I apologize if I cut in. It's hard to see on Zoom, and I think I cut into Director Schott, and I apologize publicly to him for interrupting. But here's what this board did. The people that are out there, and I don't know, in phone land or video land, that say the board's not doing anything. This board authorized, the purchase of 10 Aquatrol 200s. They are expensive units. The unit itself is $2,000 plus all the other stuff. Authorized and asked us to deploy these units. And so this is the map, and the yellow boxes on there. Right now there's 14 because Carlos has, because we have the other one because I need it because we take it in the field. So, but we've got 14. We had some, and we got 14 of them out there. And we put them in strategic locations, and this is where we get into 8, because I'm just going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to ask the board to buy more of these and I'm going to show you why in a minute. Hopefully I can make an argument here on why I think it's important. But so each one of these, and see these 2 yellow, Director Manley, see over there by 84. Marty, show them where 84. These 2 right here, they're right next to. Go down to the left a little bit. Yeah, those 2 right there. Whoops. Those 2 were the ones that I was talking about earlier. they're different. Why are they different? I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. Okay, so these collect conductivity. Let me explain something. Go to the next slide. Tell me if I'm taking too long, Director Robinson. Okay, so I need to explain something here because when I sent the board a text message and sent them a bunch of numbers, 2,900, 200, 300 or whatever. And when people talk about conductivity, a lot of people think it's TDS. And I want to explain something real quick because the sensors that we are collecting are collecting a direct measurement of conductivity. Conductivity is how much electrical current passes through the water. When it's measured in Siemens per meter, most people, the typical correlation is microsiemens per centimeter. Siemens is inversely proportional to resistance, which I don't need to get into all that. But essentially, how much electrical current can go through the water. Now, what changes that? The mineral content. Okay. Now, that's actual conductivity. Specific conductivity is normalized to, Miss Morris, I can send you this slide if you need it. I see you.
I've got it.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Specific conductivity is all normalized to 25 degrees C. And why you do that? If I have water, like we go down south of Standard Lane, I've got 94-degree water. And at 94-degree water, my molecular interaction with water is a lot greater than I do if I go over here to the spring or I go to Dooley or one of these other ones that are down around 70 degrees or a little lower. And so you measure conductivity, it's specific conductivity, it normalizes everything to 25 degrees C so you can compare. So you can look and say, okay, this one is this value, this one is this value. Total dissolved solids is completely different. Total dissolved solids it's a gravimetric analysis. So you take a sample of water, you dry it out, and you see what is the mass. It's measured in mass over milligrams over a volume, milligrams per liter, typically parts per million. And so in the Texas State Legislature, and again, I'll look at Director Ellis, Mr. Ellis, if I say anything incorrect here, the Texas Legislature is looking at, they call 3,000 parts. What they're talking about is TDS, parts per million. And at certain levels, once you get above 3,000, there's some things you can do with brackish water. They're giving funding for brackish water. There's a lot of things you can do. So when I'm talking about 3,000, and for whatever reason I misled the board somehow to they're thinking I'm talking TDS. There's a difference, which is why I want to correct that. I'm not talking TDS. I'm talking specific conductivity, and typically, see the relationship, they're related. Typically, the relationship is maybe 0.5 to 0.75, but that relationship is not constant. It depends on the ionic concentration of the water. Certain ions, like sulfate, have a higher charge. And so if my water is really high in sulfur and I send electrical current through there's going to be a higher conductivity value than, say, water if I go someplace where the water's not sulfury and I send it through, even though they may have the same TDS. And so electrical conductivity isn't TDS. Now, typical Edwards Trinity, calcium, magnesium bicarbonate, sulfate, chloride, not usually here, but did you have a question before I go on?
Does the pressure have anything to do with this?
The pressure won't change the ionic concentration. So on a molecular level, pressure is not going to change anything. What pressure will do will move water in different directions. Okay. Let's go to the next one so I can start explaining some things. Okay. So we went out to the spring in May and went out in June, and we collected. This is just a spot check. I didn't put an instrument in, and you're going to see the difference on this a little bit. So each of these yellow dots, a couple in the spring basin itself, one in the discharge channel, and one down by the gauge. And typically in both, Carlos, correct me if I'm saying anything wrong here, but the data that we got, okay, was between 440 and 445, 440 and 446 or something. I mean, we're right in that range consistently. We went out, took a meter in, let it sit, took some readings, wrote it down, did that 4 times. Now, the reason I'm not putting an instrument in this is because we want an instrument in the basin itself. And in order to get in there, I've got to swim underwater and we need to talk to the fort and I need to hold my breath for a little while. Adam has me on video doing this the first time, rowing a boat with a shovel. the boat was leaking or whatever. Anyway, okay. So we did some red. So, but remember this. This is my point. The spring is around 440 to 445. Okay. And if we get a sensor in there, we'll take readings every hour like we are on these other sites. Okay, go to the next slide. Let's look and see what we got. Okay, so Dooley. So this is from April. This goes back. So we installed the orange line down there on the bottom. That we put that in right about the end of May. We just deployed these, so there's not a very long record on some of these, but you'll see where Dooley is. Dooley specific conductivity, right? We're right down around 210, and it's moving a little bit as the water level. The axis on the right is conductivity. The axis on the left with the blue line is groundwater elevation. And then you see the ground surface. So Dooley right now is about 6 or 7 feet below ground. The water level is 6 or 7 feet below ground. The conductivity on Dooley is about 210 microsiemens centimeter. Go to the next one. Mr. Schott, this is your well, 100 feet deep out there. Put him on the spot again. I may need to apologize next meeting. But this is Austin Chalk, and we get water at about 900 parts. Go to the next one. This is south of Standard Lane. And the horizontal blue lines, that's the bottom of, we just installed this one in May. We put a couple 100-foot cable in. We realized that when this well pumps, water level goes below that. And so you see the conductivity, the orange line, go down to about 0. That's because there's no water. It's taking out of the water, so the instrument's working. But in this sulfur well, we get conductivity close to 3,000, above 2,500, between close to 2,900. Next. This also is the Austin Chalk. Now, this is one of the wells that is pumping southwest of the fort that is not the 1964 1,200-foot deep wells. This is 250 feet. It's in the Austin Chalk. And you can see the groundwater elevation at 1025, static water level elevation. The bottom of the spring is 1104. So this is 80 feet. Water level is 80 feet below where the spring is. It's in the Austin Chalk, and the conductivity, you can see this one's interesting because it goes down and then it comes up, and we're still looking at trying to figure out this one. I don't want to make any conclusions just yet on this one, but
It bounces around a bit, doesn't it?
It bounces, and sometimes it pumps and it goes up. Sometimes it pumps and it goes down. So what, to me, something else is controlling this besides this. And so then what you need to do, you need to go, okay, well, who's around it that can be controlling it? But again, this Austin Chalk is around, goes between 1,000 and 1,300, basically similar to the other well, 1102 that we just looked at in the Austin Chalk. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, so this is Camel Camp. This is Mountain View Ranch going up 334, right-hand side. Everybody knows what the little Border Patrol checkpoint is that make you sit. Well, right before that, you go off to the right towards Turkey Mountain, and we've got a conductivity sensor in here. I talked to you about this one before. Goes up and down, or again, around 400 to 500. This rain event right here, this May rain event, they got a lot of rain. And what was really interesting and counterintuitive from my perspective is that when it rained, the conductivity went up. Rainwater, there's not a lot of minerals dissolved in rainwater. And so whatever was happening, this was getting recharged, somehow was changing the conductivity. But if you look at the water level itself, the water level wasn't changing. Okay, add another item to the list to continue to investigate, to dig deeper a little bit further. Okay, next. Lindsay, this is up 334, left-hand side, the old Vondi Ranch, for those familiar. This one, water level's coming down and conductivity is going up a little bit. But again, I'm only looking at 2 months worth of data. This board authorized us to purchase equipment. We have purchased it. So, but from a longer term perspective, you look at this and you see these different waters. We're going to monitor it and look at it. Go to the next one. Casey Easement, again, right up there. This one's right up north of town here. Conductivity just under 400. Next. Old Bader irrigation well off Highway 90. This one's deep. Potentially Edwards water's conductivity is changing. This one we're still looking at a little bit, but again, this is information. Yes, sir.
Where we get the recharge, can we map this map where the water actually is coming from a recharge? Does this help us map it?
Okay, you asked me that exact same question the last time I was talking about this, and hopefully I'm repeating my, repetitive answer, scientific approach here. It is a tool to help us. This is not the silver bullet that says, yes, this is exactly, but it gives you a very good indication. The benefit with this is giving us a reading every hour. In some studies, you go out and you do one test, you get one sample, it's a snapshot in time. These instruments are giving us a reading per hour, and you're able to see how the water's moving, how the ionic concentrations in the water are changing, and this is helping understand the difference in where the waters are. And honestly, I know I was talking about this last week, but I need to talk to Vince about this some more in the sense of, look, whatever, I'm not hiding anything, but in my mind, there's more vertical mixing than I think I would have anticipated by seeing this. In that we're seeing there's probably wells that aren't completed correctly, where you're seeing water come up and from one aquifer to another aquifer. There's hydraulic conductivity in the Z direction going up and down. That, the Del Rio clay, where a lot of this area, it's confined, you can see that. Because there's a lot of pressure. You get wells, like even now up in Pinto Valley, you got Ring, and I don't need to name names, but you got wells, Marty took pictures, that water is flowing out. There's so much pressure or hydrostatic pressure in the ground, water's flowing up out of the ground. Well, why is it flowing up over there and not over here? Why are we drying up over here? And so this is a tool in the toolbox to help us understand that, and potentially vertical mixing. Okay, next, I'm almost should be done. Mr. Gomez heading up that way. Again, 475 to 400, short period. Keep going. Permitted well. This one's on the creek. This one's interesting because this well, many of these wells are not pumped, by the way. A lot of them are. Some of them are not. This well's not pumped. It's not used. And the conductivity is really following the water level. So whatever's feeding into that is telling us something. And so this is embryonic. We just put these in the last month or two, but this is another tool to help us understand what is influencing the spring and what is not. It's easy to say the system's driven by rainfall. Okay, we all know that. That's great. We need rain, Director Minley, right up in the recharge area, and it's going to flow. We're not getting rain. So having not getting rain, Director Palmer, we will be looking at the micro, trying to get into the weeds and to understand the influence in it. And so next, GMA 10, this is Texas, the TxDOT, the rest stop going out towards the highway. And again, this one real low. Edwards Water, Balcones Fault Zone, 370 or 360. We've not, Carlos, did we do a water sample on this one? We have a sulfate reading? Yeah. Some of that one in the Balcones Fault Zone, some of these are sulfur wells, and I would suspect that the actual TDS value, that this conductivity is influenced by sulfate ions. It's probably a little higher than if you went down to TDS. It's going to be more similar TDS as Dooley in terms of Edwards Water. But again, I'm speculating, and forgive me if I'm wrong. I'll tell you next meeting. Okay, next. Okay, questions. This is agenda item 7. Yes, sir.
Little back on you or whatever. That's true. So when I saw whatever that drop was and asked you about it, you tracked it down and, did some sleuthing and figured out that the fort had turned on the other pump or whatever.
Right.
Okay. So that's a variable that affects that gauge that you have in the spring head at Los Moras. So that was solved essentially, that particular.
We understand that noise in the data graph.
That noise, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay.
So, but if you see other noise in the data graph,
yeah,
and you can find out when the fort turns their pump on,
right?
And if it wasn't noise from the fort pump, it's noise from some other source. Let's just say source.
Yeah,
noise could come from different sources.
A lot, yeah, no, absolutely. And we've looked at, in fact, Vince and I were talking, May 1st, we've got a drop, and we trying to figure it out. Why did it drop? But we're actively looking at that. This board has directed us to actively look at that. The fact that I don't have an answer doesn't mean we're not trying to figure it out.
Well, one of the things that's going to play into figuring that out is the fact that we now have monitoring on the permitted wells for when withdrawals are occurring. So we have what's going on in the instrumentation, and then we also have what we're seeing as far as withdrawals. So we can start looking at different things to try and figure out what's occurring.
Yeah, yeah, and Dr. Robinson, that's correct, and certainly, you know, Marty going out in the field, getting us pumping information, the wells that we do have instrumentation on, we don't have all of them just yet, and not because landowners haven't allowed us to, and props to all of our landowners out there. We had a great, you know, we were out at the Shahans. Kudos to Mr. and Mrs. Shahan for letting us on the property and allowing us to do some instrumentation. We've got some work to do with them, but everybody, you know, has been absolutely accommodating for us. There are certain wells that when you get there, there is not a way to get into the well to measure a water level. And that's just the way some wells are configured. And so when you open up a sounding port and you open it up and you hit concrete, well, when the well driller put it all together, they didn't allow a place to put a sounding port. So it's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of direction from this board in terms of trying to do it, but we're looking at other means. I know we worked on, you know, getting these little tiny sensors. We're trying to work on some of those, but it takes time. So.
Well, I think, you know, most of our problems, is it fair to say most of our problems so far have been technical in nature, either with equipment installations or not being able to get access for sounding port. It hadn't been from anybody not wanting to participate.
Yeah, that would be true. I think the biggest challenge is the amount of work that needs to be done and time. You know, I mean, I went out Friday afternoon and got one unit operational that as of this morning, for some reason, didn't report. So, you know, and so I don't know if people understand the amount of effort it takes to get an instrument 500 feet down, back up to some unit somewhere up on a mountain, up to the cloud, and, you know, whatever. We're doing it. I'm not complaining here, but it takes time to do this. And this program, when Dr. Bill first hired me in 2000, brought me in with Miss Janelle here, 2013, he said, the DFC is wrong, the MAG is wrong, collect data to fix it. So, okay, let's build a network. And so now we're at a point where we're trying to figure out what your DFC is going to be, what the MAG's going to be. But this all effort for the last 12, how many years, where are we now? 14? Somebody add for me. We're collecting information for that very purpose. Let's figure out what it's going to take. All right.
Jim, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Vince, you on the phone there? I don't know if he can hear me. So,
Yeah.
Vince, this is for both of you guys, Jim.
Okay.
So in this data, you know, collection effort, and this came up a couple meetings ago. I was looking back at the YouTube videos, but we need to clear the air on what most impactful means. There's some confusion in the public, I think, and maybe part of it's my fault, maybe part of it's, you know, the public's misinterpretation, or maybe it's just things that were said that are misunderstood. But it's basically this belief that it's been figured out already that the fort and the mud wells are the most impactful to the spring flow at Los Moras.
Who said that?
Well,
See,
Beth Ann Smith said it on Facebook.
well,
So,
I don't.
so I'm trying to
I
clarify
read
for
Facebook.
everybody's, you know, and I'm not saying how she thought that, or I don't know. You ask her why she thought that, but I'm just trying to clarify what the science says.
I'd like to make a quick comment on
Does the
that.
science say yet that that's the truth?
Well, let's go
That's my
someplace.
question.
Let's
Okay,
go
so
someplace a
hold-
little bit different here. I think it's a little too early to tell at this point who is the most impactful to anything We haven't been able to look through all the data yet.
I-
You
yeah.
can't tell anybody's
That's what I'm
most
saying. That's
impactful.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't tell anybody's most
Okay,
impactful.
so, yeah, so let me
Can't tell that.
comment, Vince, I'm gonna let you comment here, but let me just say something from my perspective. Okay, I can't speak for Beth Ann or wherever Ms. Smith got her information. I'm not on Facebook. I think Facebook is a cesspool of whatever, and I'm not on it. I don't read it. I don't want to know anything about it. Okay, but the fort and the city impact the spring. Okay, period. Okay, now, are they the most impactful? That's what we're trying to figure out. In my mind, I mean, and I know that there are several people that discount everything south of 90. Director Palmer, I heard you said that months ago. Hey, I'm not worried about stuff south of 90. I had somebody else tell me I'm not worried about south of 90. You know what? I might be. I'm not discounting anything south of 90. I'm not discounting GMA 10. I'm not even discounting the stuff that I have up in Pinto Valley. Other than the data today is artesian flow conditions, right? And the recharge area, the recharge zone, I'm looking at Tularosa at a macro level. That well, which it's not influenced by anything related to irrigation, is when it goes up, spring goes up. When it goes down, spring flow goes down. So these are macro level things. What's most impactful? In my mind, what's most impactful, I probably don't know right now. There's probably some well out there that is doing something that is not normal hydrogeologic connection, aquifer stuff, understanding. I don't know. Or maybe it is. Maybe I'm going to run out there and find a well and go, hey, guess what? I found the silver bullet. Guess what? It's you. Or it's you, or whatever. We'll say it. But I cannot sit here and say this is the most impactful. We put an instrument in the city and in mud. We weren't allowed to get into mud. I mean, not mud, into the fort, into that basin until 2023. Had I been able to do that back in 2015, we'd know a lot more. Right now, I'm looking at 2 years of data. When mud pumps, I can see the spring goes down. I think Travis Huey and Will Conley at one point goes, I can see when they're pumping, the well goes down. Well, it's the well that's right there at the appraisal office from the spring that's causing it to go up and down. I'm not in a position, and maybe Vince is, I'm not in a position to say those wells are the most impactful because I don't know. There are
That's what I'm
things that
just
go
trying
up
to-
and down.
So I'm just trying to clarify. And
But-
I don't know what Vince thinks about it, but.
Yeah, well, we're gonna let Vince say something, but I think this idea of listening to people post on Facebook is ludicrous. Because you have a bunch of wannabe especially in this community. It's been so divided. There's people coming in here talking and dividing this community. Your biggest existential threat in this community isn't the landowners and the farmers that are here. It's out there. And coming in and dividing this community and saying, there's no applause here.
Yes, there
But
is.
people coming in, dividing this community
Well,
are
no.
getting nowhere. And I'm not
Well,
I'm not.
I didn't
direct-
post this on Facebook. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
there it is. And that's what it says and that's what you say. And so that's what I'm trying to straighten out. And
Just-
Vince, what do you say?
Just for the record, okay? A lot of the things that we're seeing in the data right now that makes it look like things aren't connected doesn't mean that there's not connected. Doesn't mean that they don't influence each other. One of the things that was presented at the TAG business meeting was from a groundwater district where the transmissivity level moves two different directions depending on who's pulling. So it can go back and forth. It's not just all one way.
my watch is going off over here. Abnormal heart rate.
Well,
Okay.
Wait,
Yes.
let Vince.
Said again about the transit.
Well, this was a monitoring site in another county where they were trying to figure out which way the water was moving. And what they discovered was depending on who was pumping where, it moved this way or it moved that way. It would move north or south across that property depending on the withdrawals that were occurring outside of it. So what I'm saying is, who might be impactful, the most impactful now might not be most impactful at a different part of the year or 5 years later. It's when we're monitoring it.
Let's give Vince an opportunity to say something here. Vince, can you hear us?
Chick-fil-A. I can't hear you.
Oh, we can't hear you.
That's the headset and everything.
Oh, Maybe it's your sound source correct.
Vince, hang on, we can't hear you here.
I'm trying to get him up.
Digital output.
Vince, can you try to talk?
Yeah, just saying so.
Click on that.
Face mobile and put it on speaker.
It's gonna be one of those speakers there. I think it's gonna be in this section.
If you go up here, please, well, sir.
What about now?
Yeah, there you go. All right.
At least we know digital outputs, right?
Can you talk? Are you talking, Vince?
Oh, Vince, we heard you for a second.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Would it surprise you if I told you the technical difficulty was on my end?
Well, with Adam here, it would not surprise me.
Well, really just to echo most, if not everything that Jim said outside of his answer about Facebook and the downfall of society there. I may or may not agree with that take, but trying to stay focused on the technical here. I think there's been some confusion, and this could be related to some things we said. This goes back to very strongly correlated. I think it's quite obvious that those wells are very strongly correlated. However, that does not equate to most impactful, and I think that's probably where some of the confusion has come from. I mean, as you were just alluding to, based on conversations there, Jim, I mean, you can stand at the pool, and when the mud wells kick on, you can see the pool basin drop. I mean, that is a very strong correlation. But I've cautioned this group before, just because there is a very strong visible correlation, a very strong data correlation, that doesn't necessarily equate to most impactful. It's obvious there is an impact when that well kicks on, but most impactful is a very strong use of vocabulary. And so I think we continue to use words such as they're strongly correlated. And then I think you can then deduct from they're strongly correlated that when you pump from one of those two wells, you are having an impact on the spring. But to make the jump to the most strongly impactful, I think that's a pretty significant leap based on our current understanding of the data. It doesn't mean that in 6 months we won't get to that point and make that conclusion. But based on our current understanding of the data, I would say it's very premature to say anyone is having the most impactful effect on that spring. Kind of echoing what Jim was saying. We may get there here in the next couple of months. We may conclude, the mud is having the strongest impact. Right now, I haven't assessed enough data, analyzed enough data to make that conclusion. We know they're strongly correlated. We know they're very strongly correlated. But we've also got to consider things such as volumes of water being removed. There's a lot more to this. And so most impactful is language that I would like to stay away from at least in the near term, until we've had time to better understand the system. And in 6 months, we probably still won't have that answer. We may, but we may not, as it relates to who is having the strongest or most impactful impact on spring flow. Something that was also said there, everything's connected. We have to stop acting like we've got compartmentalized aquifer systems. But just because everything's connected also doesn't mean that everything's having an equal impact. There's a lot to untangle here. The district's in a really good spot related to the data. We're untangling all that data right now to make sense of everything we're seeing. There's water moving horizontally. There's water moving vertically. There's water moving through boreholes. There is a lot to unpackage here, and these things take time.
Any more on 7, or can we spend some money?
All right, we're done. Let's go. Any other questions?
That's all.
And I rambled here a little bit. My personal opinions on Facebook.
You know,
My own personal and not district's positions. Let me clarify that. Adam, cut that part out if you will.
I'm
Those are
a,
my personal opinions, not professional here.
I'm a real stickler for moving along, but
Okay.
I think we needed to have that. I think we need to have that
That's
conversation.
fine, that's, okay, so let's go on. So Director Robinson will move to agenda item number 8. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so agenda number 8. If you have an agenda, it says additional equipment. Well, this is where I ask this board for more additional equipment for specifically related to conductivity. Go to the next one. Okay. So this goes back to our map, and I give props to Carlos and my recently graduated Santa Clara University GIS guy for putting
Broncos.
for putting this map together. Again, it's all this is just a screenshot of it, but it's all GIS layers and all kinds of information is included on here. The yellow dots are the same yellow dots you saw before. This is where conductivity. The green areas is where I think I would like to put more of these conductivity sensors. And we have, these are areas, these are candidate areas, and for more conductivity. And I think that these conductivity sensors provide us good information. They give us a measurement every hour. And again, it's not just a single snapshot on time. And I will go through, what's the next slide?
Wait, can I ask a quick question related to my comment?
Sure.
So the reason I'm giving you such a scowl, can I show you something?
Sure.
So if you go directly south of that, the green one in the northwest corner,
The green in the northwest corner,
and you go there.
that's
show where
northeast.
my ranch is.
Oh,
That's where that line's gonna go.
right in here.
And that's where I'm requesting some additional data to protect the aquifer right there, because that's where that big transmission line is proposing to go through, and we'd really like to know what it would do to the aquifer.
So you're scowling at me. I'll use your words, not mine. I just saw you looking at me. I didn't realize that was a scowl. Sorry. But that's because I'm not including you in there. I'll let the board.
The reason is there is a line that's gonna go dissect the county right about there, and then it comes over by our farms. But it goes right through the Brown Ranch,
Okay.
and that's where that recharge zone is on us, and why we've had rain events right there. And they have
wonder where
really
this one is.
impacted the spring. I've talked to Wes about
Yeah,
it.
because that's pretty close to it.
Yeah.
We've
Okay.
got one
Well,
right
so
there.
your only comment is that you want more in these areas, and we can look at, these are just candidate areas right off the bat. I'm going to ask the board to purchase 10 more of these units, and we've got some candidate ideas in here.
Have 32 dots.
But-
Ask for 32.
But do you want to?
I mean, if the board wants to authorize
How
more,
much
we'll
were
put
they? I can't
more.
remember what they were.
2,000.
But so number
All
98,
the extra, right.
About 4.
Yeah, I guess the standard one's about 6, I guess,
I'm not sure which audience to speak to. I'm just going to sit and be quiet here for a minute.
a piece. So we're looking 40 or 50. I thought they were a little bit better than that. We need them. So we're looking at, you're requesting 10 of these,
Yeah.
and they're about 4,000 to 5,000 a piece.
No, so they're not.
They're
I've
not?
got the price down here a little bit here. Okay, we were able to make some deals. Okay.
Let's make a deal.
Right, yeah, right now, might cost, how many, we have 5 viewings here. So we probably need cables. So the units themselves are about $2,200. Okay. Now you need associated, that's just the unit that goes in the water. You need cables and some telemetry stuff or whatever. But one of the things that we've been able to do with the ones we got is that, like, we went up to Crownover, went up to Kickapoo State Park. I already have the top head unit that goes to the cloud. I've got the cable already. And what we did is we just connected the new sensor, a different sensor that collects more information to that. And so what it's done is that, so we're asking for 10 more, but my roundabout cost is about $2,500 each for each.
Because we're not going to have the top end on all of them.
Because we don't need the top end on all of
Gotcha.
them. So what we were able to do is, last time you authorized the purchase of 10 full complete sets. Well, I still have 5 units because we went out and we put 5 in existing locations where we didn't need to use the cellular satellite communication back up to the cloud. And so what we've done is let's get some more, let's realize economies of scale, let's utilize existing equipment. The other thing that it did do is it freed up those old units. So we've got a unit in Crownover I pulled out. That unit can still be put someplace else. And so we will redeploy those units, and those units are $1,200 each. We'll redeploy those units into other areas, again, repurposing and reutilizing equipment that we bought. And so these were the areas. Now, Miss Orray, she's talking about, so 98, Director Robinson, that is Mountain View Ranch. That's Camo Camp. That's the one that was all over the place. Whatever, we've got a conductivity sensor in there. The ones to 99, is that, oh, that must be Big Jackson. 17 and 18, that's on Mr. Byler's property right there on the line. 50 is by the Weather Ball. That's on Schuster. 35 is Gun Hill Ranch, all the way on the county line. 37 is on the Toft Ranch. 51, 47, 54, those are South Loop and Chiva. Those wells, that's a little further south, honestly. That's up near the Anacachos on the back. I'm not really concerned about water going there. Let's get the low-hanging fruit locations first. But anywhere from 49 going down towards R23 in that area, Miss Orwig, if you've got something in there, I don't have any wells that we're monitoring over there.
You see where 1572?
Yes, ma'am. Right there at R23, there's a blue triangle or 1572.
She's right up in here where we ain't got nothing.
Right in there.
Right in the blank spot.
Hole is, and y'all might get some really good information right there.
Give me information, or you and I, we've talked about this months or years ago or something.
Yes.
But I'm happy if there's more locations to monitor, good information, and it's an area where we're not currently get data. You never know. If you're saying that those water levels are somehow correlated this spring, maybe.
I don't know that they are, but it just so happens every time this tank fills up.
I don't know, but I'll tell you, I went to the sinkhole that's on that place.
Okay.
It's worth going and looking at.
Okay.
And the Del Rio Clay comes to the surface, it's good for you.
Oh, the Del Rio Clay's at the surface?
Yeah.
I don't know what it feeds, but the water that goes in that sinkhole is going somewhere.
Okay, so we're moving on here. Go to the next slide. I'm not even sure what I have here. Oh, so here's the sensor. This is what it looks like.
You gotta make a geologist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see, I did do grad work in geology, by the way, but that's a different story. Okay, so this is what the sensor looks like. I don't know, Carlos, if you have one, you can hold it up. I think I've showed them to you before. It hangs in the water, but this is what you get. You get barometric pressure, you get barometric pressure, temperature, depth, the actual conductivity, and then actual conductivity is what it measures, shoots a little electrical current through the water. It gives you the actual conductivity. Then this sensor normalizes it to 25C so you can compare it. I think Director Schott, as you were talking about before, comparing the different waters, there is some comparisons. Salinity and TDS is a calculated value based on a coefficient that you have to put in there. So I don't trust the TDS value unless you get a water sample and you do additional laboratory analysis, determine what the TDS is with a certain conductivity, and you get a correlation. That correlation doesn't really change. The numbers will change. But once you do a water sample, you get that. And then resistivity and density. Resistivity is important. Density, not so much. Most of this is freshwater. Even the brackish that we have doesn't really change density much out here. But anyway, that's what the sensor gives. What's the next slide? I honestly don't. Oh, well, laboratory analysis. So we have been doing this geochemical stuff. This goes back before this board, but we've been collecting little tiny water samples. We've sent them to Texas A&M, their AgriLife extension, for $30. We get all these parameters, all your calcium, magnesium, these ions that are parts, so you can do these correlations. We are continuing to do this. And so when we go out, and this is, I had a landowner ask me to do some samples or potentially get involved in doing some sample stuff or whatever. We're already doing this, and it's $30. And it's a cheap way to understand. And this is the geochemistry stuff that at some point I presented to TAG. Adam wants me to come back, I'm sure, and continue this. We have other things that are more important for us to be working on than just the geochemistry side of it. But again, this is something that we're doing.
What's the going to A&M or are they going to Lubbock?
Carlos, where do they get Texas A&M? Yep. Okay. Next, so question. So my request to the board is for 10 additional sensors to spend about $2,500 each. If the board wants to authorize more, we will use more. But at this point, my request is for 10 additional conductivity sensors, and we will continue doing the water sample stuff so we can get that correlation between TDS and conductivity. Yes, sir.
How long does it take you to use up 10? We're gonna come back in there another month and need more, 10 more? We get 20 or 30 and just have them here when you need.
I would entertain a motion for the board to authorize the purchase of 20 or 30, but I would only purchase 10 at a time, just knowing, because number one, they're under warranty from the day you buy them. And so it would take us probably 6 or 7 months to get 30 of them, just because of timing, how long it takes to, it could be a day per installation kind of thing. But if the board wants to entertain a motion to purchase more, we can buy 10 today or 15, maybe 15. I know Carlos was asking for 15. I settled for, I'm being frugal. Miss Janelle's laughing at me, but I'm always frugal. But anyway, but to answer your direct question, I couldn't, if you bought 30, I couldn't get 30 in the next month, but I could get 10 or 15.
Why don't we look at it this way? Why don't we consider authorizing and letting him purchase them as he can install them? That way we don't wind up eating up any of our warranty with them sitting in a
Yeah.
in the safe.
Good. How long's the warranty?
Yeah. So if we wanted to do 20, we could authorize the purchase of 20, but he didn't have to buy them all at once.
Yeah, they're 3-year warranty, but I gotta be honest, we've sent some back after that. We buy a lot of equipment, not for y'all, not just for y'all, but the company buys a lot of equipment for these guys. And they'll make it right. If it's their fault, something happened. I mean, even sometimes we even have ones that work. And I told them, hey, this is probably our fault. That's right. They'll give us another one. And so the In Situ Corporation has been really good to EcoKai over the years. It's been a great company to work with. They've got great equipment. But 3 years right off the rack. And then if there's something else that's a little screwy on their end, they'll end up fixing it. Or if it's not 100% under warranty, they'll give us a discount on what it takes to actually repair it.
So you can put one a day in?
Well,
it
kind of depends. And I know Director Palmer's been out in the field with us up in Middle Pecos or whatever. And, sometimes you do one. I mean, I'm still, working on one of our landowners right up here for 674. We did a pulse transmitter and it's taken us 3 or 4 days to get one. Typically we could do, if everything goes great, you get way more than one a day. But as you know, working out in the field, everything doesn't always go great, and you run into stuff, and you've got to be MacGyver a little bit and figure it out. The instruments themselves, sitting here on the desk, all connects to the cloud, everything works great. Get up out in the hills over here, back in the sticks, and put it out. It's a little bit different.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We at least order 15. That gives him 2 days for every one that he puts in. That's just more information we get sooner. We can tin him to death, take forever.
I don't have a problem seconding that motion to purchase 15. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. You got 15, guys.
Merry Christmas.
I just think it was a lot of work. Okay. And a lot of pressure to come back before y'all.
How often does the science change on that? Like cell phones change all the time.
Oh gosh, man, when we started out here, I didn't have cell reception anywhere. And, it was all 2G maybe. And so, technology is changing. The good thing about this equipment is it's scalable. And so one of our issues and why we went up to Kickapoo, one of our issues with that particular unit is that the company is pushing firmware upgrades for new technology.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, and so they do most of that. They do automatically. I don't even want to say a majority of the time. Maybe half the time it works, and then half the time all of a sudden they get a unit that stops working. And we look at it and go, oh, they tried to push firmware 209. Oh, well, this one, our cell reception is down around 26%. That's not going to push a large firmware package. And so we'll have to go out to the site, do the firmware up, manually do the firmware, get my iPad out. Hopefully it's not in the sun, get a little umbrella, keep it from overheating. And then you do the.
You could post that on Facebook.
Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 9. Discussion possible action call.
Here.
Discussion possible action call for November 3rd, 2026 election of directors, position precinct 1, precinct 2, and precinct 2. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the call for the November 3rd election. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 10, discussion possible action, adoption of resolution, election order, and notice of election. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 11, discussion possible action, enter into a contract with county clerk for November director's election. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Hey, Wes, real quick
Yes, sir.
on that. This is a sample right here, right? Item 11.
Yep.
I think they got your name wrong on there, so.
Oh,
Robertson,
good catch.
Wes Robertson.
Oh, I
Somebody
thought it was
else.
Matt. I hadn't looked at it yet. Oh, that's okay.
So I don't know if that's the actual contract or not, but I assume
Robertsons,
it's gonna look like that.
Robinsons, they're all related anyway. They're all related.
Anyway,
We'll fix it.
okay.
Okay. We'll correct it before we send it to you.
Yep. Before I sign it. Okay. Agenda item number 12, discussion possible action, drought mitigation committee. Okay.
What's the difference between a drought mitigation committee and a drought?
The public,
one if we were-
the public wants us to do something. They don't want us to fight,
Right, well, I understand that.
right? So, and they want something now. We're not at the right stage of the 5-year planning cycle to do the drought management plan. We don't have the management zones or anything else for it. We can talk about it till we're blue in the face. We don't have any of the tools to do it, but we do have some things that we need to address right now. We do have things we can do. We do have things that we can do to mitigate the influence on the spring, but we're going to have to sit down and talk about those, not fight about it. So I'll either reform another drought mitigation committee or this board can form its own. A committee its purpose is to put actionable items in before the governing body. It doesn't have to be the end plan.
No.
You can have things up before the governing body for them to consider. It can be all kinds of things. It can be a lot of the things that have been discussed around here. There are other cities close by that are doing aquifer storage and retrieval and doing conjunctive use. I think we need to explore that, and we need to send somebody to go there and find out how they did it, what it cost, so we can come back and talk about it.
And not for what?
Aquifer storage and retrieval and conjunctive use is something that the city of Kerrville is doing. They use water out of the river when the river is flowing. Okay,
The river?
all right.
Not seen one in a while.
Well, that's when it's flowing. And they take some excess at the same time and they put it into the ground. And when the river quits flowing, they pump the water out of the ground. That's the storage and retrieval part of it.
Well, even the Rio Grande, that's the closest one I know of that's flowing. They've already restricted their water use over there from getting it out of the river.
What I'm talking about is long term. The city of Brackettville and Fort Clark Springs, everybody wants to see that grow. It's actually been doing the opposite over the last 25, 30 years since I was selling ads when I first moved back after graduating from high school here. It was 3,500 then. Now we're at 2,500. In order to do that, the spring has to be flowing as much as we can keep it flowing. And in order to do that, we're going to have to reduce the influence on it. We know that we have some influence from 2 different municipal users close to the spring. It's not the only influence. And I'm not saying that it
Water's
is.
connected.
I'm not saying it's the only influence. We need to remove that influence if we can. And then we need to get anything else that's hitting it to reduce it as much as we can so it flows for as long as it can when it doesn't rain.
Okay, I've got a question. And you were stating at the last drought committee meeting that the spring needs to be repaired. Is that having an effect on it if it's not repaired? If you
Well-
repair it, is that going to improve? Is it going to improve the spring itself? That's
To be more specific, I was referring to the swimming pool and the way the operation of the swimming pool affects flow.
right.
It doesn't necessarily affect the spring per se. Okay, it affects the flow in the creek. Repairing the pool will reduce the amount of interruptions to the flow of lost Moras. That's what repairing the pool does. That doesn't fix the spring.
Okay.
No.
I've
That
got a
doesn't
question
fix the
then.
spring.
If it's flowing in out of the spring into the pool, correct? I've never been over it, so I don't know. If you fix the pool, it doesn't change how much the spring is doing.
Actually, it does to a
Unless
certain
it's
extent.
missing, the spring is going under the pool and going underground somewhere.
Well, this is a conversation we can get into more detail of, but to give you a thumbnail of what's going on, the pool had a manifold system that allowed it to fill up from the bottom,
Right.
okay, where it didn't have to have the head pressure to go over the top. That manifold system became deteriorated in the past, and the association wasn't able to repair it. They didn't have the finances to do it. What's happened since then has been some deterioration around it, which they did a report in 2019 on it. Some of the things that had occurred, and they have addressed some of those issues as well to block off some of the water that was flowing around causing the damage.
Right.
But because that manifold system no longer functions correctly, all the water has to come over the top.
Okay, but that doesn't change the spring flow itself. It's actually, if it has to
Well,
come over the top.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there. There's two 3-foot gates on the spring impoundment before the pool. Okay. When the spring is flowing enough, the association has been keeping both of those gates down. And that puts another 3 foot of head pressure on the impoundment. Now, that requires more energy to push over the top because of that 3 foot ahead. Is it significant? I don't know. It could be a half a CFS. It could be 2. I don't know what it is. I can't do that calculation.
I mean, you just brought it up like it was a reason why the spring wasn't flowing. But it doesn't affect how much the spring flows. It just affects where the water goes after it leaves the spring, correct?
What I was referring to is the fact that the creek was not flowing at all because all flow had been blocked trying to fill the pool. That's what I was referring to. Normally, that wouldn't happen if the manifold system was in operation. You wouldn't have to have the gate down on the spillway to fill the pool, and you would always have flow going into the creek. That's what I was referring to.
Okay.
What Director Robinson, theoretically, I don't know anything about the pool or, the manifold deterioration stuff, but theoretically, we have a sensor in the spring basin itself. The water's bubbling up out of the ground and it comes to a certain height. that without pumping in and around, without, and this is an example of cone of depression because you're so close. But theoretically, that head pressure of 8 foot, if it was coming up from the bottom in the manifold of the pool would be the same level as the rest of the
Yeah.
spring. And so theoretically, right now, if there was a manifold system operational in the pool, that pool would fill up to the same level as where your head is on that base of the pool. And as of today, we're 8 feet or something. I mean, I don't know, did you look at it or you know what it is? But it's
I don't know
up, it's come up six
But
to
it's
8
come
inches.
up.
It's come up. And so what Director Robinson is saying, in order for the pool, the recreational pool, to get any water, the head pressure has to be up a certain amount and then flow over the top. But if it was in the bottom, it could fill up. And my suspicion, okay, or my speculation is a better word, is that it would full up to the same level of the head.
That's exactly what it
Exactly
does.
where it is. And so you would still have water in the recreational pool if the manifold system was filling up from the bottom.
That's
But
correct.
where's
That's
water?
that's what it used to do. And when you would get into a low flow situation like we are at now, where it didn't want to quite come over the top and come into the pool and pass through, what it would do is it would fill up right to the same level as what
Yeah.
was in the impoundment. If it wouldn't pass over into the impoundment in the pool, then the pool filled up to that level and it would be a little bit low.
But where's the water going? If it's missing going through that flow system from the bottom, where's water going? It should be coming around. If it's breaking the ground around the pool, it should be coming out in the creek.
I suspect that there are still leaks occurring, although if you look at the engineering report, a lot of the things that were leaking around the pool that caused damage were repaired. There were pipes that were from the 60s that went across Highway 90 that water had gotten into and were going around and saturating the ground. I think it was 4 years ago when it went dry, the association went in and repointed everything on the inside of the interior, and they tried to shore up a bunch of that stuff that had been leaking out. I don't know how much.
Well, I'm
They got
wondering
done.
if the water is going around and if the bottom one's filling it up, if it's leaking,
Right now,
it can
Barry?
come out and come at the end.
Right now, it goes underneath where the spillway valve is. That spillway valve is not watertight. So there's
Yeah,
a
there's some
there's
spilling
an
around there.
amount of water that goes underneath the spillway valve, and it's flowing down the spillway valve right now at 1.58 CFS.
And-
that's in the concrete channel.
And there's some-
Channel that you're talking
And
about.
there's some that's underneath that channel as well. Now, how it gets in there, I don't know. And the only reason I know it's underneath there is because you can see it pushing up through the expansion cracks. So you got pressure coming up from the bottom of it. Yeah, so there's something
I mean,
underneath
I
there as
understand
well.
that, but once it leaks so much, it should come back into the creek.
Well, it
And
yeah,
it's going
it
in.
does.
The
Oh, it
the part
does.
that leaks through goes right into the creek.
It goes into the
But
creek.
the creek's not flowing.
1.5.
1.5.
1.5
Yeah.
on the creek.
That's probably about what's
And
leaking around it.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I question whether or not it's really, I mean, we were out there the other day, there's some beautiful gar, by the way, there was like, kind of, I don't know, 12 or 14, beautiful gar sitting in the creek. But it doesn't, I mean, there's so much vegetation there, I mean, I understand that the gauge is depth and there's a rating curve, but it's,
But there's another difference too, because right below where the spillway's at, when everything else is dry, you still have water in the creek right there.
Yeah. So that must be leaking coming up.
Yeah, so there's a lot more to it right there than what meets the eye.
and part of, I don't- your grant that it looks like you're gonna get approved for on Friday. Where's
it at?
time and looking at all that. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead on the agenda.
Let's go to 14.
Yeah, that's all right. We might move that one up here in a minute.
Well, I'm just wondering if that wouldn't fix the springs, if it's leaking around it and it's going in and it may be hitting an underground channel because the rivers all go underground whenever they're not flowing. The Oasis River's under the ground.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if the water wasn't escaping and just going underground.
It probably is at some point. It just gets complicated right here.
I'm sure there's some probably that goes underneath the
Yeah.
pool too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it's
Bound to be.
fills in from the bottom,
Yeah.
it erodes eventually.
Well, it
But
used to.
I was wondering where the water, once it goes around and misses the pool, where's it coming up? That's
Well, even when the spring basin itself is completely dry, there is still water. If you drive across the fort, you look to the right, when you go across the bridge, there is still water in the creek from the recreational pool to the Fort Clark Guard Shack Bridge. There's always, I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
that I've ever seen it that completely dry. So
I don't think I've ever seen that puddle below the pool completely dry.
yeah, and so at
it's
some
coming out of
point,
the pool,
yeah,
coming
so
up there.
at some point, the head
That was my
pressure's
question.
coming up, not just in that, I mean, the spring used to flow up, it used to flow out here before Brown and Root put a bunch of concrete and filled it in, it used to come up over here. But so the water's coming up into that basin, but at some point it's still getting in and around. And so Director Menley, you're right in that it is moving around somehow to get down over there.
Yep.
Okay. I was just wondering if that might help the spring itself, make it flow where it's supposed to flow instead of running under everything.
So here's my thought. In order to do this and actually do it in a hurry, I think we need to go with a 3-man committee. And that doesn't mean that everybody can't be here and everybody can't participate. Doesn't mean we're not going to meet in public. It means that we can meet quicker and we can be more responsive and we can get something done so we can get an action item up before the body's next meeting.
Okay. Well, my
Because I don't want, I'm not playing around.
Yeah, but my idea was put a drought litigation plan in place. That didn't mean you have to do anything with it yet, but have it in place where we can start working on the details we need to do. Every area is different, so we have to change it at all times. And then when the science meets to what we're looking for, we already have a plan set in place in order to get it started. If you don't start it, then you don't have nothing to go with anyway.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think the first place that we have to start is with the very unique challenges that we face as this district, because we've got some unique challenges here that I'm not sure there's any other district in the state that has. And we're going to have to address those in order to do this. We can't dismiss them and move on to something else. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to fix that. And it's not anti-reduction, anti-curtailment. When I look at Barton Springs has 400,000 for a population, 100,000 homes, 400 operational permits, practically no agriculture, and a footprint a third the size of this county. I don't think that's exactly the place we need to start. I think we need to start here and work out. And that's what I want to do, and I want to do it relatively quickly. So, anybody want to volunteer to be on this thing with me? I want to. We'll meet tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
AM.
Not AM.
Yeah.
Right here.
I can't, I'm about to leave for 2 months, so.
Okay. You want to meet tomorrow? Pick the day after. I'm open. But if we're not going to fight, if we're going to address the problems that we have, we need to address them. But this finger pointing and Facebook crap, not on my watch. I'm not going to have it.
Good luck trying to stop that.
Well, I can to the best of my ability, and I certainly will not participate in a committee that's going to pull that in there. That's counterproductive. You're not going to get anything done.
We'll join on it, but about the timeline.
Well, I get 2 volunteers. We'll work it out. We'll post it. The public will know about it. They can all come. Everybody can participate.
Put me on it.
I got 1. I need 1 more.
Wes, I would do it, but I cannot be at a meeting at 6 o'clock for the next week or more. I just can't do it.
Okay.
Too damn busy bailing night.
When would you be available, Randy?
depends on the weather, you know, but maybe by next Wednesday, maybe.
Okay.
I'd hate to be that
Yeah.
way, but it was an effort to get here today.
I understand. I truly, truly do. There's been a lot of pressure from the public on this. People are hollering, and I'm tired of getting screenshots on it. If we're going to do this, then we're going to do it. And if we're not, we're not. And that's fine. But I'm not going to keep putting up with that. It's pointless. We're not getting anything done. We're not addressing what we need to address. I'm ready to address it. You want to address it publicly? Let's address it publicly. But I am not for coming in here and arguing about Facebook posts and being attacked for my integrity about a fish kill when I was at one in 1980 at the age of 13 at the Red Bridge saving fish. So I'm not putting up with that. So if nobody else is volunteering, then the board doesn't want to do it. So right now, I'm taking you two. We'll get together as soon as we can and we'll post it.
Sounds good.
Stand by. It will be posted and it will be public. If there's another time that you can meet Randy that's not at 6, it's fine too, because all we're going to do in the first meeting is come up with a list of stuff that we got to address and figure out who's going to go who's going to do what, who's going where. And by the way, doesn't have to be the committee that goes someplace to find something out. Somebody in the community wants to step up, be on the field trip to go to Kerrville, find out about conjunctive use, speak up.
I'll volunteer.
We'll put you on it.
Doesn't have to be a board member to be on the committee.
I'm putting 3 board members on the committee. We may wind up doing subcommittees. We may wind up sending members of the public to go look into this, that, or the other, whether it's brush management, rainfall enhancement. I don't care. Whatever it is we think that we can come up with to eliminate the pressure on the spring, we need to go find out the information and the feasibility of it and what it costs, whether we can do it or not, whether it's applicable here. That way we can figure out what tools we can use. And I'm for putting every tool in the toolbox we can, including curtailment. So, any other questions about it? By the way, everybody is welcome to attend. Everybody's welcome to participate. There'll be 3 voting members. That way we can get something done. We can move on down the road. And the goal is to put actionable items before the 7th. So y'all can vote it up or down, whatever it is. Agenda item number 13, discussion possible action, Southwest Research Isotope Study.
You want me to go there, Wes?
Sure.
Sure. So yeah, just looking at y'all's package, this is something that I just wanted to get out on the table. We're all aware that SWRI approached the board. They got a grant from Koipu Foundation to do this study. And so it's the guy that I have contact with is this guy Mauricio Flores, which if you look on that last little page, he's on there. So I think he's the main hydrologist that's doing this isotope study. Jim, you might know, I don't know. He's talked to you. Have you personally talked to him or?
I have not spoken to him about this.
Okay. So and I don't know if Vince has, if Vince is still on, he knows this guy. So my understanding is that Vince and Mauricio have talked. So there was a letter that came out about, I think Janelle, you wrote that letter that says, you were approached by these people. Ron Green is included in this company somehow. I don't know that he's an employee of SWRI or if he's a consultant that works under them or whatever. But anyway, this SWRI is doing this isotope study, and it's supposed to have been done a while ago. I'm not sure the status of it, but they're ongoing research. So what facilitated this initial thing for everybody's information, or why we're bringing it up now, is I was looking at Google Earth, and Jim, we talked about this just the other day. And so I like maps, and we're talking about GIS and all this stuff, but I got on Google Earth and saw the big pivots to the northeast and the southwest. And there's all this discussion in the community about, what's going on and what data do we need to figure out what's going on. So I put those circles around the pivots, and I sent this email to this guy and said, as part of your study, these pivots. And he says, I don't know yet. Basically, he says what he says here. We would like to look at the area to the northeast and the northwest, not to the southwest or east, but not to the southeast. So not like B6 or whatever, B7 or the whole 1964 deal. So they're looking to the north. So one of the areas that Mauricio wanted to look at was to the north, and that pivot that's right here close to the town. So then I think I sent you an email that said, hey, can he do that or not? And then you said, well, we need to talk about it at, the whole board. And that's why we're talking about it. So I don't know what the process is. And Wes, you talked to these people too, I assume.
I was talking to them the day after they came here.
Yeah, so I don't know, I don't know why Mauricio doesn't just tell you where he wants to go, and then
I've been in contact with them.
yeah,
I've actually been helping them get in contact with landowners.
And obviously
landowners to do
they
that.
would have to get the landowner's permission. It's not really something the board should really be involved in. Probably it's just
Actually
facilitate it.
As a landowner is why I got involved in it.
Yeah,
Because they wanted to sample my well.
yeah.
And I wanted them there the next day.
Well, I hope you would,
And
but
so
I don't know.
They're trying to do science in a somewhat political environment, and we were trying to get all of our instrumentation on all of the permitted wells at the time, and didn't have everything on it. And I agree with you. I don't think we needed to try and piggyback with anything, because we were doing our own thing, and we've got our own PR battles.
Yeah.
To work.
Yeah. And one of the things
that said, though, I am very excited about what they're doing, and I am encouraging all landowners to participate in this. Went to my neighbors immediately and told them, you need to let them sample. Let them take their samples. This study and those isotopic results will fold into the other data points that we're getting, and it will all work together. I have no doubt. So
cool. And
it all helps.
The other name that came up was Ralph Gomez, and Vince, you could help me out here. I think Vince told me that would be a good place. And then I told Ralph, hey, would you be willing to do a sample on your place? You guys are familiar where he is?
Oh yeah,
out here. I don't know.
I drive by his house going home every day.
So it's out there, going out towards Valley, whatever, somewhere out there. And so that was one spot that would be good. I think he's willing to have it done. I just don't know how to facilitate exactly, putting, the scientist with the landowner.
Well, they're an independent study, so they really need to make their own contact.
So, well, yeah.
What I'm doing is promoting their study and telling people, please participate. Yeah, okay, please participate.
That's what I just hope that we're doing, in general, and whatever. Janelle, if he talks to you, I guess you have my permission to, I don't know, do what the board wants.
When I know the landowner personally, because I've known them for years, I have no problem contacting them, and I have contacted many of them and told them, please participate.
Okay.
Yeah. We need that information from every well they want to get it from.
Yeah, and it's like I said, between the landowner and the scientist and whatever. If we can help, then great. But
yeah, exactly.
It's not like we're super involved.
Well, we can run, if they can't find somebody, we can help them run that down. I'm a pretty good digger on that kind of stuff, so.
Cool. All right, that's all.
Do you mind if I interject real quick with a few clarifying statements?
Please.
Yes, so I've known Mauricio on and off for probably 7 years now, mainly through email correspondence, and that's primarily related to work that SWRI, or Southwest Research Institute, has been doing out in the Big Bend region, more specifically within Pecos County. One of the things that I was coordinating with Mauricio and his team on a while back was related to sampling around Diamond Y Springs. One of the things we were trying to do at that point in time is better understand flow and sources of contribution to Diamond Y Springs, like Los Moras. It's seen better days. There they have endangered species. The district's actively trying to protect that spring system in any and every way possible. So I've had an ongoing relationship with Mauricio for quite some time. Because of that, one of the things we were able to do successfully in Middle Pecos is coordinate our research efforts. So we've shared thoughts of kind of, hey, what are you thinking? What are you seeing in the data? Here's what we're thinking. Here's what we're seeing in our data. Are there opportunities to align in terms of research goals? And so we've had that working relationship on and off now for quite some time. Most recently, his team's been trying to coordinate on shallow alluvial water samples along the Pecos River out there in Pecos County as well. So known him for some time. I've known his team for even longer. They do great research. The isotope data is expensive, normally cost prohibitive. So anytime someone else is willing to foot the bill for isotope studies, I'm always in favor of that. And that allows us to better footprint the water. And so as it relates to not just flow, but origins as it relates to recharge areas, origins as it relates to vertical migration of fluids, it provides us a lot of really good data that we can't quite see in something just like conductivity or TDS or just sulfates. It gives us a little extra detail and clarity in terms of how water is potentially moving through a system. But for that to work properly and for that to work well, you've got to have samples over a very widespread area. And you have to have samples in areas where you have some sort of working hypothesis that there either being flow boundaries or no flow boundaries. So Mauricio and I did speak about 2 months ago now. It was just us to better understand what data they were collecting, when that data would be available. At the same time, Mauricio was looking for any recommendations that we may have had. It looks like their data may be available August, maybe September. So right about when we're finishing our study, hopefully there's a chance to get a little peek at their data beforehand. We discussed some of the things we were both seeing and observing. So a good productive conversation. He asked if I had any access with landowners. I said no. He kind of showed me two circles on a map. One of those circles appeared to be kind of in the Los Moras watershed region. And through that conversation, I pointed out, really good well to sample within this area would be the Gomez well, just because we believe that's located right along a boundary condition as it relates to Los Moras and Pinto Valley based on water levels. That would probably lead to some insightful information for you and your partners as it relates to the study. I was hopeful that they were going to be taking samples down off the standard, told me that that wasn't part of their scope. Was really wanting to better understand what that water looked like. He had told me he's really looking for something in the northwestern portion of the county, hasn't really had much success. So that's the conversation we had. I told him I would provide him the URS study. There's a few other things that we talked about just in passing there, nothing of substance. But I see them as providing us good, useful data to better understanding the groundwater resources here in Kinney County.
Vince, who's paying for this?
I'm not sure. SWRI, they're in a way they're nonprofit, but they do need sponsors to fund these projects. Usually that's through Bureau of Reclamation grants. Historically, there's other funding mechanisms too. But as it relates to who's sponsoring the study, I do not know. I did not ask that question.
Do you know, David?
Yeah, it's COIPU. I don't know what COIPU stands for. COIPU. It's in the email from Janelle, I think, or from Mauricio to us.
I thought it was Meadow Center that was
No, it's not Meadows. It's this.
I heard that name myself, Meadows.
Well, I'm familiar with
Where it
Meadow
came
Center, but
from.
Koipu, I've heard that name, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
I'll find where it is.
No idea.
I can show you guys.
Clark Poo.
What?
I said Chris Hale has some involvement with Clark Poo.
Yeah, he does.
He's an officer.
Okay, moving on. Anybody got anything else on that one?
No.
Item 14, discussion possible action grant from Bureau of Reclamation. I think this is an update, isn't it? Where'd Vince go?
Euro grant, is this you?
Yes, sir. Audio working again?
Yep.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I keep having to go back and forth between different audio sources, so my apologies. Yes, so the Bureau of Reclamation grant, this is specifically related to, well, let me backtrack here. So the Bureau of Reclamation, they have a variety of grants that they're able to award, pretty much in western drought-stricken states. Unfortunately for us, Texas falls in those western drought-stricken states. What they have is they have a program that's called the Water Smart program. Within the Water Smart program, there's lots of different funding opportunities. One of those opportunities that's currently open right now is called the Applied Science Grants program. That closes here July 6th. I'm only discussing that as a data point to illustrate that there's numerous pools of money that Bureau of Reclamation hands out specifically related to water projects. I don't think that project or that Applied Science Grants is applicable to the district right now, but I do believe it will be in the near future as we think about things such as advancing towards a numerical groundwater model. Now, what was recently posted from Bureau of Reclamation, and this is what we sent over to Janelle, is that the call for cooperative watershed management projects is now open. This is something that the district cannot directly sponsor. However, what this is no strings attached except for reporting requirements money. But what it does is it provides any group that applies that is awarded funds up to $100,000 to develop a watershed management program. So specifically within Kinney County, a watershed management program could be part of a drought management strategy. So one of the reasons why we flag this is because some of those conversations more recently have been geared towards better understanding aquifer health. And then that conversation has led to discussions about things such as brush management. Discussed tonight was aquifer storage and retrieval there related to what Kerrville is doing. So there's a lot that can be part of a watershed management program that then leads to better spring health. So although the district cannot apply for this program, if there were local community leaders, activists that wanted to come together and do something that was productive for groundwater resources in Kinney County, this would be that thing to do. So just putting it out there as this is an opportunity, it's something that I think the district could support and should support. And at the end of the day, I think this is part of that toolbox as it relates to the drought management plan. That's personal opinion. However, this is up to $100,000 for a non-governmental entity to apply for. There's a whole project fact sheet. I'd love to talk to anyone about this in more detail if there is anyone that's interested. But if there was a group within the local community there that was interested in doing something like this, I see this as having a lot of synergies with the district and the district's drought management plan,
I can think of a non-governmental
whatever that
entity.
eventually looks like.
Or Clark Springs.
That's a question. Hey Vince, what formal entity is necessary? I mean, can you be a nonprofit? Can you be a corporation? Do you need to be an association? What formal entity, or just residents collectively together?
So the way they describe it is a watershed group is a self-sustaining, non-regulatory group that is composed of a diverse array of stakeholders, which may include, but is not limited to, private property owners, nonprofit organizations, federal, state, or local agencies, and tribes. So it's an all of the above there.
It sounds like something for a drought mitigation committee to discuss and pursue. If not somebody else. Like if somebody wanted to volunteer to do it first.
can it repeat?
So just wanted to flag this as an opportunity there. I think it's quite relevant, quite timely based on all of our discussions. This is one of several opportunities that I'll keep flagging for the district. As Jim alluded to, this Thursday on the Texas Water Development Board's Directors Board Packet, there's agenda item number 3. In agenda item number 3, you can read through all the TWDB science grants that are being recommended for funding. Kinney County's in there for full award. So if you start layering all these different funding opportunities, this can very quickly add up, and it can very quickly move the needle as it relates to the work being done there in the county, specifically as it relates to improved aquifer health countywide, plus at the spring there as well.
What's the deadline?
Good question.
This one, they have
October
4
7th.
different
October 12th.
October 7th.
deadlines. There's
Funding
4
opportunity
different times you
closes
can
on October
submit.
7th.
You want to submit
October 7th.
the first one if possible. That deadline is in October here. I'm trying to navigate back towards the exact date on that.
Ben's got it. It's the 7th. It's the 7th.
What?
October 7th.
October 7th.
So a newly formed group would be acceptable, or does it have to be?
I do not know that specific answer. I would assume that is acceptable, though. I've worked on one of these in the past down in the Big Bend region where we formed a group literally a week before the program was due. This was for an EPA climate change grant several years ago, and that was acceptable. But they do have an informational meeting here coming up on July 21st. So a couple months before this is due, so plenty of time to get ducks in a row. But they do have a webpage here. On that webpage, you can get all the relevant information. But July 21st would be the program kind of, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing this, and then they open it up for Q&A afterwards.
I'm sorry, when was the?
21.
When is that meeting gonna be? I missed that.
June 21st.
July 21st, Vince, is that correct?
I believe it was July.
July 21st, that is correct.
It's okay. I wasn't sure. I thought. I want to do 100% on that one. Okay. Anything else on that one?
Thanks, Vince.
If not, we're going to move on to number 15, discussion possible action financial statements for May 2026. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Let the record reflect Director Lewis has left.
This is the information about that.
And I will second that.
I'll get it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the financial statements. Is there any discussion?
You save money if you cut the air conditioner down on that free.
I've been telling them, these ladies, that for years.
Over here shaking.
Yeah, it's always cool in here.
That's why I always wear a long sleeve shirt.
I don't think I did that one. Usually I got his vest.
It makes it extra cold.
Any discussion over the financial statements? Motion's been made and seconded to approve. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. 5-0.
For audit.
To file those for
Motion and second to file for audit, right?
file for audit. That is correct. I forgot this time. Dang it. I'm going to get that sooner or later. All right. Agenda item number 16, review monthly investment report. File for audit. File for audit, Wesley. Why don't you start writing that down?
There you go, write it next to it.
I didn't entertain a motion to. Oh, we don't have to do nothing with that. We only review that. Any questions about the monthly investment report?
They're still making money.
Okay, number 17, discussion possible action, invoices received and invoices paid. I'll entertain any motion.
Quick question, Wes.
Sure.
We're on track, with Ms. Hobbs about her leave and absence and pay and how it all went down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there was some, concern that,
But we're on invoices received and invoices
right,
paid.
but we're paying her again on this invoices received, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, so that amount is there. And that's for what, for work since she's been back or?
Yes.
Okay.
It was, I'm normally paid, I'm normally on salary.
Right,
It's the same all the time. This time it was by the hour because I only worked about 44 hours in the 2-week period.
right, okay.
And this is the first check I've gotten in 2 months. I
Since
think.
you were in the hospital? Or, well, no, that's not right.
Well, we
Since
can,
you ran out of, since you
we can
ran out
talk
of leave.
about that in the executive session, but I just, yeah.
Any
If
other,
we're good, then we'll go with that for now.
any other questions on it? Still don't have a motion on it one way or the other.
Make a motion. That's it.
Second.
Motion to approve?
Yeah.
Motion been made and seconded to approve for invoices received and invoices paid. If there's no discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we are going to recess and go into executive session under the authority of Government Code, Chapter 551, Texas Open Meetings Act, Personnel Matters 551.074.
Get that correct?
I don't think that that's an agenda item. I think that's something, okay,
When,
if that's what you want to do, that's not a problem with me.
no, they need, it needs to be corrected and it hadn't been brought up since all the last ones that we voted on.
All I was going to suggest was that's something that we need to go ahead and take care of so we can report back at the next meeting. We don't
Yes,
need an
because you're gonna
agenda.
put in another pipeline. You're gonna sell them water again.
Again, we don't need an agenda item for that. If you want one, that's fine. I don't think it's, I
Then
don't
can
think it's
we
a
get
wise
it,
idea.
then can we get it on the books to get it done? That's,
I just said we'd report back on it at the next meeting.
yes.
That's on,
Okay,
that's on.
Okay, well, that's all we need to do.
It'll be taken care of.
I don't know if it's an agenda, I don't know or not, but I was
I'm
just something that.
I was telling you, you want it addressed. I'll make sure it's addressed before the next meeting.
Please.
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Anybody stay off the road, I can't see after dark.
For those of you who are concerned about how long y'all spend in these meetings, I thought I'd pass along the House Natural Resources Committee met today to talk about several items, including data centers. They started at 10 a.m., they ended at 8 p.m. I'm not sure how many they got through, but at 5 o'clock, they had 111 people signed up to speak on data centers.
I don't remember which one I was at a Senate, I think it was a Senate Natural Resource Committee meeting. We got started in there at, I want to say it was around 10 o'clock a.m. I don't think we walked out of Capitol about 11:30.
I have been at committee hearings, the full figure session lasted 230 minutes.